Can you guys
Hold on.
hear?
There we go. Sorry. I think audio
There's
was
been no audio?
apparently not, even though I
that's
hit it
great.
once already. So, all right. Well, we can reintroduce.
Okay.
I was like, why are my levels not showing me now?
Um,
I forgot double clicked.
all right, real quick. Sorry, if you apparently I've been talking with no audio. So
You can lip read.
question and answer episode 61. Ask anything you'd like. 034 Motorsport products and services, automotive questions in general. No bullshit. That's the review. And I was just saying that someone posted. I think it was. How do you say it? Aaron?
Or not.
Arnon. Uh, um, Arnon. How do you say his last name? I just know these people by name. By I've never actually said the. Of course,
Just read on
I'd love
the,
to meet him. But he posted this really funny meme in our customer group about something to the extent of spending all your money on 034 parts and so I was kind of thinking about that and the idea that our customers would be wasting their money on 034 products really bothers me. I think there's probably a lot of marketers and business owners out there who are like, yes, waste all of your money with me. I like it. That's what I want. I want to rip everyone off and sell them stuff they don't need. And, people sleep happy doing that, but that's not something that I've ever aspired to do. And I know the meme is lighthearted and funny, and I make those kind of jokes all the time as well. And so I'm not saying anything about the meme or the attempt there, but it kind of led me to this other thought process that I never have wanted to be a business owner who just sells people stuff they don't need or want or crap or just taking people's money, for the sake of tricking them out of it or something like that. And I think that's really why when you look at the 034 Motorsport products and services of the company that we are today, and we're always talking about substance, we're always talking about our products doing something, giving you a benefit, doing what they say, doing what we advertise, and our strong desire to kind of stay away from frivolous parts that don't have any substance. It's not necessarily just philosophical or whatever. It's very pragmatic that everyone here at the company, we care deeply about what we do and the products we put out there and sell, and none of us want to sell you anything that you shouldn't be buying, that you don't benefit by buying. The goal is for us to create these products, put them out there, have you guys spend your hard-earned money on them, and then receive that benefit of having a faster car, having a more fun to drive car, having a car that handles better, having your A4 handle as good as a BMW or a Porsche. That's why we get up in the morning and come and do all this. It's not just to put a bunch of like trendy products out there that may or may not do what they say and kind of trick people into buying them. So that's my little tangent, but just giving you guys some insight as to what drives us. It is really important for us to put these products out there that do what they say. We're not perfect at it. We could test a tune for 6 months and there could be a little thing that comes out in the throttle or the drivability, but we're going to fix it.
Yeah, we're not going to let it ride.
Part of our desire to create that substance means we'll fix it. When we find the problems, we'll fix them and we'll eliminate them. Just because we don't always get it right the very first time doesn't mean we don't care.
Yeah,
that's
well, and
what
I
we're
mean,
trying to do.
on that note too, like the OEMs don't even get it right the first time,
Right.
almost ever. There's almost always ECU revisions that come down the line for drivability, for some test criteria, for
Yeah.
all kinds of things you'd think would be very obviously taught sometimes.
Not to mention recalls and
then there's all the big money stuff.
I mean, you got Boeing having airplanes falling out of the sky. I mean, arguably the best, most advanced engineering firm in the world that history has ever known. And then there's NASA. Look at all their failures. So, anyways, we care. We're here to do it, and you don't have to believe us, but hopefully through your experiences with us, you draw the same conclusion. That's the way we want to operate. But I'll never say, hey, just trust me, because I said this thing. Don't do that. Buy our products, buy our services, interact with them in a critical way. Make sure that you're receiving the benefit that we told you. That's why we do it. Mm-hmm. All right, we got some questions rolling in, so let's jump into those. In terms of improvements, how much impact is there on stopping power having the rear brake discs larger than the fronts when using your MQB rear brake upgrade? 340 stock R Golf R front brakes, 350 mil rear upgrade. I'll be honest with you, and I think we're pretty straightforward. Our rear kit isn't necessarily a massive upgrade to braking. You're not going to go out for the first time and hit the brakes and be like, "Oh my God, the car's stopping so much harder." One, it's a visual upgrade, so it fills up the wheel more. That's kind of a cool thing when you can do it. It certainly makes the car look really more balanced and look nice, having that bigger rotor in the rear. Basically, we were faced with providing a two-piece lightweight rotor with proper venting for the Golf R and the MQB rear, and so we thought, why don't we just make it a little bigger too? And but the real braking benefits aren't necessarily related to the size, though there is a benefit.
Yeah.
It's a two-piece rotor that's lighter and has better cooling than the factory cast rotor that those cars come.
And you'll get better, thermals out of all that too. You can use different pad compounds because you've got a bigger lever arm on the rotor. So there's a lot of benefits that come around to having a larger rotor that aren't necessarily, maximum braking effort, but more a continual, brake performance where it's not going to fade off and degrade like it would on an overheating stock rotor.
Yeah, and then you also have to keep in mind that the rear rotors are thinner than the fronts. So even though you have the diameter, the thickness of the rotor actually has something to do with its braking performance as well. So,
and as far as brake balance, a lot of that can be handled, with pads and with some other setup. It's definitely not all about diameter. The pad area, the pad compound, and all that makes as much of a difference as well.
Yeah, and then the ABS, these new ABS systems do a really good job of dealing with it. So you're never going to lock up the rear brakes or anything like that. Hey guys, for the 93 octane single pulley setup for the B8.5, will the stock cats be able to cope with the heat generated? Also, do you think the stock high pressure fuel pump will be able to keep up?
High pressure fuel pump for sure. That's fine. The gasoline files we don't spec an upgraded pump requirement for those. The catalyst, as always on these, they fail stock all the time. So there's not a lot we can.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not.
We're not aware of like a rash of immediate failures. Like as soon as someone puts our tuning on, 2 weeks later their cats fail. It's nothing like that. Is the cat life reduced some amount over a stock file? Probably. They don't last terribly long stock. And the harder you push it, probably the wear and tear on the cats or the degradation of the cat matrix is probably accelerated. But we can't say by how much, and it's certainly not like an immediate failure thing. So maybe instead of lasting 80,000 miles, it only lasts 60. I mean, we just don't.
To that end, we have stage 1 carb certified calibrations, that have been, gone over and looked at by the the carb engineers and whatnot, and none of that was a problem with the stage 1 stuff. So like I said, the OEM stuff fails at a certain rate. Anytime you're pushing more and more volume or heat through anything, you're likely going to shorten it to some amount. That's a very difficult thing to measure, that kind of lifespan and use rate. But there's nothing we do that's going to increase that rate any more than any other tuner is capable of.
Yeah, so I mean, will they be able to cope with it? Sure, for tens of thousands of miles, it's proven that they do.
And some longer than that. Some guys have had them on there for a really long time. So it's kind of a crapshoot on those.
It is. DQ381 TCU progress.
We talked about that last week. It's waiting on their actual DQ500 work. We're kind of rolling them together.
We don't have an ETA.
Not an ETA yet to get that out and pushed further.
How is the Stage 193 ECU TCU tuned for the Mk7 R without an intercooler intake? Are bolt-ons required for Stage 1?
Nope.
Not required. It's It's good. So it's good with the stock intercooler and stock intake. You're gonna notice a massive increase in power and acceleration. When it will become an issue is on repeated back-to-back acceleration events, like say you're shifting through 3 or 4 gears simultaneously, like getting onto the freeway if you're at the track. The heat will begin to accumulate in the intercooler, the heat will not shed fast enough to keep up with the heat that's going in. And so the stock intercooler will begin to heat soak. Again, not just one like rip onto the freeway or ripping through 1 or 2 gears, it's going to be fine. But as that heat builds and develops, there's a certain rate at which the stock intercooler can shed heat. And once you start putting heat into it higher than the rate it can shed, then it heat soaks. And that's when our ECU tune will start to pull boost back and go into a more safe mode.
Right. And one thing people don't consider also is the intake. You mentioned it as well. The intake will help both for flow, but it does also help for that heat because the turbo doesn't have to work as hard to generate the targeted boost. So turbos, the bigger the pressure differential, the more heat it's going to generate. When you've got a restrictive intake on it, that's going to be a bigger amount of pressure. Basically, it has to build at the turbo to get the amount of boost pressure it's being requested of in the intake. That just translates to more and more heat. So
So essentially what Nate's describing is imagine you're running 6 miles an hour and you're using and outputting a certain amount of energy. You're burning calories to be able to run at a 6 mile an hour pace. And someone in a car is driving next to you, and so this car has a bungee cord attached to your back, and so it starts pulling back on you at 1 mile an hour. Or let's say there's a headwind that's 1 mile an hour. You can still run 6 miles an hour, but now you're essentially with the same energy, you're running 5 miles an hour. So you have to expend more energy to go 6 miles an hour. And this is the same problem with stock intake. It costs about 1 psi of boost for the turbo. So the turbo has to work harder to make up for that 1 psi of loss on the inlet side. So when you open up the intake, the turbo now shifts into an easier, less hot part of the compressor map, and there's less heat now in the system to deal with. You're going to sweat harder running 6 miles an hour with a 1 mile an hour headwind, and at some point you just can't sweat enough and you're going to overheat. And so this is the problem with restrictions on the turbo inlet. The turbo can overcome them, it just has to work a lot harder.
Yep.
Sometimes
it can overcome them.
We recommend the intercooler and intake. All of our inlet parts.
Yeah, the turbo inlet.
The turbo inlets, our turbo. If you buy our intake, it comes with the hose. And then stage 1 is stock cat, but the more you free things up, the more power there is. But by far the bulk of the gain is from stage 1.
Yeah.
And then you're dealing with the heat after that. Any chance on a TCU tune for the B8 without the throttle damping feature?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they're asking here, but there's no throttle damping in the TCU. That's all engine side. It's where all the throttle and the controls and the driver request stuff come from. So
I think they must be asking about the
sharp
abrupt
throttle,
on-off
right.
thing. We've been asked about this. It's odd because we've had this tune on the market for like 4 or 5 years. It's never come up until now. In the last 2 weeks, this is all we hear about. We've been saying no, we're not going to do that because it's a feature of our tune. We're optimizing the drivability and performance of this tune. I suspect a lot of the people that are really noticing this are lugging their engines at lower RPMs.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because if you get on and off the throttle, say at 5,000 RPM, you're really not going to hear the drivetrain lash issue because everything's so loaded up. But at low RPMs, it's very pronounced. Say if you're at 1,500 or 2,000, you can get on and off that, and you're going to hear that clunking because everything's moving so slow. At a certain speed, and there's enough momentum in the drivetrain where these parts just load up and they don't clunk back and forth.
Or it's at such a rate that it's so fast, it's just a real sharp transition. You don't necessarily hear it.
Yeah, there's a it's not really a resonant frequency, but there's a range that it's a when it's high speed, it doesn't do it. When it's low speed, it's similar like when you have a shock that's blown, it'll clunk at low speeds, but at high speeds, it's moving so fast that it doesn't have time to clunk. So I don't know. I don't know how serious of a concern these things are, but we are optimizing the throttle mapping to make the car more responsive,
Yep.
and we don't want to
Yeah,
dumb
I mean,
down the
it
throttle.
literally
and
hasn't
make it
changed in 5 years, 5 or 6 years. Like,
And this is really no different than how cars used to be that had cable throttles.
Right.
You know, like before all this drive-by-wire stuff, you had a throttle cable connected to your throttle, and there wasn't really a good way for the factory to dampen the throttle. I mean, if you pushed the throttle a certain speed and amount, the ECU had to respond to it because there was a cable connected to it. So since drive-by-wire came out, then the factory can say, well, you're asking for 30% throttle. We're going to decide how much to give you.
and
So
how quick we get there.
maybe we'll give you 25%, or if emissions are too high, then we're going to only give you 20%, and then we'll give you 30% eventually, but we'll do it over 3 seconds, you know. And we're undoing all that crap, and we're giving you a direct connection to the engine. But if you're at low RPMs and you're kind of getting on off the throttle, yeah, that drivetrain lash is going to clunk.
Right.
And again, this is kind of a new thing. It's really interesting how all this
Well, it's a new. We're getting the questions is new. The tuning strategy.
questions are new. The
for
concerns
quite some time.
the concerns are new.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think your point of last week with some of the more sports purebred cars, this is just a normal thing.
My God.
you get a razor sharp throttle, and it's they're I don't want to say clunky, but they're very responsive.
Well,
it's immediately.
it's hyperbole. I mean, call it whatever you want, but yeah, you get into like a race car and it's like bam boom bam boom bam boom, you know, and like there's whining and it literally sounds like the car's going to break in half, and those are the sounds that the factory is trying to make go away. You know, they're working really hard to undo all that. Is it possible to have the same type of launch control for the B9 as for the B8, even though they switched to ZF from DSG?
We're working on that, and I believe it is. There's some yes, we are working on that, and that is our goal.
We plan on offering a full-featured advanced launch control. It's not gonna work exactly the same as a DSG launch control, but the basic features and functionality will be there.
Yep.
Our launch is going to get a lot faster than what
and
it is now.
adjustable. The biggest thing right now is like it's and everybody else has to struggle with this too. Is you have to pick a launch setting that's going to have to work for everybody.
Yeah.
We believe that we should let you decide how much traction you've got and have some control over that. And that's where the advanced launch features will come in. So you can how much boost do you want to leave the line with? What RPM do you want to leave the line at? That kind of thing will be selectable by you.
Are the SüperDüper metal adapters different on the various B8 applications?
Let's save SüperDüper for one to go.
Okay.
Just top question here. We're getting bombarded on YouTube about it.
Okay. Can you just split all the SüperDüper questions out into some bulleted? They're just intersprinkled in throughout there. So let's talk about the California bar thing. This is it seems like every few months now there's some huge bomb on the internet related to the EPA, or now it's this thing about CARB.
Yep.
And I'll just tell you exactly what we think and what we know is happening. I've seen a lot of misinformation. There's people talking about moving out of the state. There's people talking about having to light their cars on fire and put it on a log raft and push it out into the Pacific Ocean.
Not too dramatic though.
Yeah. Good news, you don't have to do any of those things. So I'll just clarify, kind of the facts of the situation. So about 40 years ago, Congress passed the Clean Air and Clean Water Act, which gave the EPA control over regulating America, specifically businesses, to act in a way that was consistent with keeping the air and water clean. And the EPA received tremendous power and control over enforcing that. They were limited in one big area, that automotive racing was off limits. And there's other things for agriculture and
There's tons of caveats in there.
We're not going to get in there. Obviously, these container ships come in and they belch out like 1 million cars of pollution a day in the port, but that's a whole nother thing. So specifically related to what we're dealing with, racing is not regulated by the EPA. Racing, as long as you're racing a car, you can do whatever you want to the emissions system. You can rip the cat off.
Racing in a sanctioned race on a
An
track and
SCCA
sanctioned-
Grand Am,
yeah.
and it could just be you and a bunch of buddies who get together and write some rules, but it has to be like organized racing effort, which like Lemons would qualify.
Right.
The racing series US TCC that Gary does it's a pretty small casual racing series, but like that's racing, and the EPA is off limits. So then California created its own organization called the California Air Resources Board. There's also a National Air Resources Board, and various states have their own Air Resources Board as well. California, a long time ago, decided that they were gonna. Can you guys hear that?
No, we keep worrying.
Sorry, there's like banging sounds from our manufacturer. It's fine. I don't think they can hear it.
Yeah.
And so California decided that they were going to lead the nation and with the most strict smog laws, air quality laws, and so CARB was created. We've been in California since the very beginning. We've built a world-renowned, arguably one of the biggest, best tuning companies in the world right here, Silicon Valley in California, subject to all these rules and regulations. But modifying your factory ECU tuning has pretty much been illegal for a long time, from an EPA or CARB standpoint. In 2013, the Bureau of Automotive Repair, which is a consumer protection agency in California, was given power by CARB to enforce during smog testing that if it was discovered that any car had aftermarket illegal ECU modifications, that the smog test should be failed. That CARB gave the BAR that power in 2013. So nothing new specifically. It's just the BAR really didn't have a way to enforce it until now. So for the last 8 years, the BAR has been collecting data on how many cars that get smogged have aftermarket ECU modifications. And I think they determined that in California every year, about 10,000 cars were being flagged with having aftermarket smog illegal. It's not illegal, like you're not going to go to jail, but it's against the regulations of the EPA and CARB. And so they announced last week that they have now figured out how to scan factory ECUs. And they're able to compare what the stock programming should be, and they're able to read what it is. And I'll let Nate talk in a minute about maybe exactly how they're doing that. And they can actually fail you if it's discovered that you have this. Now, they're not going to come haul you off to jail. I don't believe they would not impound your car or anything, but it'd just be like any other smog infraction. They'll say, hey, the computer said you have aftermarket software, you need to go fix this and come back. Now, if the software you have is CARB approved with an executive order, like our 2.0T and 3.0T B8 tuning is, and our B9 will be.
That's coming, yeah.
That's coming. Then you're fine. You can show the EO, and I think they have a way to reference that or something. But
Yep.
the BAR has said that anything that's CARB exempt or with an executive order will not be affected. Great. So this leaves anyone else with basically needing a stock ECU file on their car when they go smog. Now in California, is it 8 years now?
9.
Nine?
Some cars.
If you buy a new car, you don't have to smog it for at least 8 years. So, I mean, I saw somebody with like a brand new Audi who had some tuning on it where we're like talking about sending it out into the ocean on fire. And I was like, dude, you don't even have to think about this for like 8 more years. So that's one issue. The other issue is most of our customers can flash to a stock ECU file, So let's say that you're out racing at the track in a racing series, and for some reason you want to smog your car, then you just flash it with a stock file. Now, if you have like other aftermarket parts on it, like different injectors. Thankfully, most cars don't have MAFs these days, but if you have a different MAF setup, you would have to remove and undo that in order to smog every 2 years once you're eligible for smogs after 8 years. But it's really not that big of a deal. It's really nothing new. The only thing that's new is the BAR actually enforcing it.
Yeah, and some people have been chiming into it, like this is not new in a number of states. Like California is actually way behind a number of states that already do this. So, you know, it's no new news here really, other than they flipped a switch here. Like,
Yeah, so I think I don't know why people love to overreact to everything these days, but I feel like that's a
The
lot of it.
California narrative.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of negativity about California, about, and I don't want to get into the politics, but I've been living here since 1991, and again, we are a aftermarket tuning company. We have an entire line of engine and ECU modification products, and I don't know, there's a lot of tuning companies in the middle of nowhere. I don't see them doing better work than we're doing here. So maybe the rules and regulations actually force us to be the best we can be in a way that you don't have to do when you're living in an area with no
yeah,
regulations.
and all of the calibration work we do to is done in the cleanest method possible. Like we're not deliberately
Yeah.
bypassing anything we don't have to for the racing applications either.
Yeah.
So,
I was talking to somebody, and the bottom line is, you know, uh, illegal ECU modifications are still illegal, from a smog and regulation standpoint. And the BAR and the CARB's job is to enforce the laws. So it'd kind of be like asking the police not to enforce the laws just because it's not as bad as something else. And a lot of people say, well, what about all the cows and the ships? And like, yeah, I agree. I mean, that stuff should be corrected, but it shouldn't surprise anyone that these regulatory agencies are regulating. Thankfully, nothing has stopped any of all of us from doing what we love, and maybe sometimes there's a few more hoops to jump through, but we're not really going to be doing anything differently because of this. We've been pursuing executive orders for tuning.
Yep.
And it's interesting because as the smog laws have gotten more strict, as the emission standards have gotten like exponentially logarithmically more strict. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not just a little more strict. I mean, it's a exponential curve going up. You also have the performance of vehicles skyrocketing at the same time. I mean, you have factory cars with like 800 horsepower that are partial zero emissions vehicles.
Yeah,
like
it's
literally
insane.
it's just
or
water and carbon dioxide.
mixed mode hybrid stuff. So I mean, you've got electric pushing in addition to a very.
I mean, let's
very
not even
efficient
talk about electric
internal
because
combustion.
yeah,
Just,
electric the emissions benefits are clear, but you have like Hemi V8s and turbocharged Audi V8s with 600 horsepower and more power than was ever produced by anything pre-smog era. So these rules and restrictions are not stopping progress of any kind. They're actually forcing the engineering effort to get better and better and better.
there hasn't been any like loss of horsepower because
No,
of
there is
anything
no
come
lack
along.
of horsepower
Engineering
performance.
is thankfully keeping up and exceeding and doing it in a cleaner, better way. So
And in Los Angeles, the air is cleaner. I mean, who doesn't want that? I don't like all these rules and regulations, but my sister lives in LA, and you can see like the mountains now, and you can breathe, and the air all over in California is cleaner. So, anyways, overall, I support clean air and clean water, and thankfully, none of these things are stopping us, from doing what we do. And the good news is we can continue to help you all enjoy your cars and tune them, and there are ways for us to meet these new enforcement enforcing these regulations.
yeah, and the to Javed's point, the carb certified calibrations and whatnot we're rolling out. It's a lot of work to get that going, get it done, and we're doing it so that it can be
is.
done in a way that you guys can all enjoy your
but it's making us better. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it's another thing. It's just you gotta cross all your T's and dot all your I's.
we are basically going through the same process that Audi does. Audi has to get
for the stamp off and sign off. Yeah,
Audi has to get CARB approval, and so we are going through that same process as one of the biggest auto manufacturers. Every auto manufacturer in the world has to go through this CARB approval process to sell cars in California.
Purchase multiple vehicles, leave them to be tested.
Yeah.
Like it's not a small endeavor.
So I think if you're gonna kind of put your head in a hole and out in the country where you don't have to deal with it, your life's going to be easier, but you're not going to have to rise to these challenges that we are. And so I think that's actually a competitive disadvantage for the tuning companies. If you can do what we do in the hardest place in the world, then you can do it in the best way possible. And we have no trouble, providing, tunes that are optimal for no smog regulations. That's actually pretty easy to do. And then someone says, are these tunes now illegal in California? Well, they've been illegal. Again,
we tell you many times what, where and how these can be used. It's not
Yeah. So if there's any follow-up questions, let me know. But hopefully, we try to be the voice of sanity when we can. And like 70 people emailed me and texted me about this last week. Like, are you shutting down 034 Motorsport now? No.
I think that's the time super duper.
All right. So
super duper stuff.
we've been talking for a lot of you that have been following us the last 60 plus episodes. Hopefully you've seen that we talk about stuff. And then we
it kind of
drag on how long it's gonna take to make it.
It kind of shows how long some of this stuff can take.
But we do actually do it. So if you've been following this saga, I don't know, we probably started talking about this
probably episode 1
a year ago. You've been on the journey with us to create this product and bring it to market with all the testing and sourcing and engineering that we've done. And so it is now live on our website, ready for purchase. The only thing we're missing, and we're sorry, is dyno performance data. We have flow numbers, flow data. So this system with our throttle body housing, the SüperDüper throttle body housing, and the 84 millimeter throttle body that we supply, though this housing will work with other options, including 80 millimeter. Is a 20% CFM increase over the factory throttle body when it's fully open. So that does result in some net power gains at higher RPMs. The higher you rev, the more power is created. We will get those numbers out. We have very high standards for our numbers, and we don't just go do one glory pull.
Right. And my God, it's been frustrating.
We've had some
for this round of collections.
Yeah, some issues and aggravations collecting the data, but we're committed to doing it the right way, and so we will. But we didn't want to delay the release any further.
I mean, we could lie and fudge it all day long, but I mean, we to John's point, we make sure we do everything we can to isolate the one power adder we're trying to test.
Yeah.
So we got to set aside, a specific vehicle at a specific time and set up to do that. And getting all those ducks in a row has been troublesome this past go around.
So again, peak flow of 457 CFM, which is a lot. Will easily support over 500 horsepower with zero restriction.
I don't know. We should probably clarify what the actual vacuum on that was for that reading. At 10 inches.
At 10 inches, okay.
Yeah. That's going to be a lot higher at 28.
That's on the...
Yeah, 457 at 10 inches. At 28 inches, there would be even higher flow. But this is a very high. I mean, this will no longer be any kind of restriction to making power on a 3.0 T. So we are currently offering this in 3 kits. 2 are available today. So one is the SüperDüper kit with the throttle body and the hose, which connects to our intake. If you don't have our intake, you'll just have to figure out a way to adapt it.
Yeah,
possibly using this hose,
just like any other kit out there.
Cutting this, and it's the same thing with all the other kits. But we've sold a ton of our intakes, so the good news is a lot of you out there have it already. And then we have another kit that's everything without the throttle body. So if you already have your own throttle, your 80 or 84 mil throttle body, and you don't want to buy another one from us, we do offer that kit as well. And then there's a third bundle coming, which is our X34 B8 intake, along with the full SüperDüper Charger kit.
Yep.
And there'll be a slight discount for buying them all together. Someone's asking, are the metal adapters different between various B8 applications like
Nope.
SQ5? No, we only have one. The only adapter is this hose here. We made sure that this all fits on any of the cars, and then we just attach it to the intake with various hoses. Again, we don't have power and torque gains published yet, so those hopefully we will have this week, and we will update the website as soon as we have those. They are coming, and there are gains. This isn't the 50 horsepower power adder that maybe some people.
Oh yeah, I don't know
wanted.
what anyone would
Yeah.
expect from a throttle body. We've never claimed otherwise.
We haven't, but there's been
is-
some ridiculous claims. by
Yeah,
other companies.
it's obviously a freer flowing throttle body. It's
Yeah.
obviously going to show a good deal less pressure drop, pre supercharger. What that translates to in horsepower at the wheels is, some amount, but it's not, this like mind altering, stacking another supercharger on top of your existing supercharger thing.
Yeah.
It's not.
And then the full kit, Nick, is how much?
Oh, I just have that.
9.
No.
Yeah, $595.
$595 for the SüperDüper Charger kit
Yeah,
with
okay.
throttle body, and then
$295
$295 without the throttle body. So we have a competitor APR that's still selling theirs for $1,300 or so. And it was interesting. Aaron, their head of marketing, actually said that he was considering lowering the price just to get revenge on us or something.
Tell him how much to make it. He asked, well, what's the right price we should sell it at?
Yeah, he's just to piss off our competitor or something like. So, listen, if we can piss them off enough to lower their price to a reasonable point, then so be it. But we came out to market with a very reasonable, fair price. There's no reason that this kit should cost any more than what we're selling it for. And of course, all of our tuning is compatible with this.
Yep.
We have files for it.
Yep.
And so as someone's asking, why did you use the umlaut in the SüperDüper Charger? Well, umlauts are, I guess it's German, right?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's I don't I'm not a
Don't read too much.
linguistic expert, but I believe they're used in German writing. I could be wrong.
Someone tells us that it translates to SüperDüper.
Perfect. Even better.
Can be equated to a not so great specific method.
Oh, no, that's good.
The
Like
more
it's
flow,
so
the
fast,
better.
it'll make you shit yourself.
Flowing every which way.
Yeah.
And you get more intake, you get more exhaust. It's all full circle.
So listen, the name of this is not serious. It's very tongue in cheek. And so when APR, I'll just tell you guys a little story. Many of you weren't around for this, but this was probably about 10 years ago. APR did a lot of like, what's that called when you tease something and it's this buildup of excitement. And basically, they said that they were going to release like this product that was just going to rock the industry and transform like performance the way anyone knew it. And so there was a lot of buildup. A lot of people were guessing as to what this incredible product could be that would like
Hyped or
rock
whatever.
the industry and like be a paradigm shift. And it was almost like, like it's like a 900 horsepower electric motor that like bolts to your rear bumper, or something. And so they ended up releasing it and they called it the Ultra Charger. And it's a cast aluminum housing with a throttle body. And so it wasn't really ultra and it didn't charge anything, but it made like an extra 10 or 15 horsepower. And so, a lot of people thought that was it was kind of overhyped. So when we did our version, we didn't want to kind of fall in that trap. And so we've just taken a really irreverent, tongue-in-cheek route. Hopefully, a lot of people have been amused by it and laughing about it. And thank you for laughing with us. But this is a well-engineered, really good product.
Yeah.
But the umlauts are kind of like, European.
It's a throwback to all those
Yeah.
silly naming conventions that seem to pop up in this.
There
industry.
was some I think it was Eurocode like 10 years ago, started like naming all their products like with German names with umlauts. They're a small tuning shop in LA. No one there is German or anything. Um, in fact, the owner's Persian like I am. But so we also thought that was funny, just to kind of disingenuous to use umlauts if you're not actually a German company or something like that. So, anyways, it's just for fun. It's just to laugh. I'm sorry, we're pretty sarcastic over here, and we think shit's funny. There's a lot of memes and dank memes floating around the facility. We get a kick on that stuff, and I know a lot of you guys do too. So thanks for laughing with us. Someone's asking, how does it compare to the IE throttle body? Do we know substantively, like,
are
there any
back-to-back.
differences?
It's 80 mil versus 84.
So we have an 84.
It's a much more.
Do they have a hot dog in their harness like
No.
the other ones? Okay.
It's a longer transition on the plenum. Again, I haven't flowed them back to back. We've never.
I think they offer a perfectly good product. I mean, if you already have theirs, you probably don't need to switch to ours. But knowing IE, they do good work. I wouldn't accuse them of some of the the ultra charger.
Well, and again, this is a pretty simple thing. It's a throttle body with an adapter.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways you can do it. Some are better than others.
I believe we have a much better price.
I think price wise, I think
we've come in below
doing
them.
quite well.
I think we're by far the cheapest option on the market. I mean, we don't always try to be the cheapest.
No,
but in this case, there was no
we're not racing to the bottom, but we're trying to provide a fair product.
We even went straight to VDO, and we're buying throttle bodies straight from VDO.
Yep.
So we're getting incredibly good price on those. We're buying like hundreds at a time, and that's not something anyone can do. You can't just call up VDO and buy like 5 throttle bodies.
The biggest difference between ours and theirs is just the length, size of this.
Theirs is shorter.
Yeah.
And we found making it longer helped flow by providing a less abrupt transition. Yes, theirs is about half, maybe 2/3, the length of ours. I mean, who doesn't want a longer SüperDüper charger?
Longer noodle.
Yeah. We also made some really awesome GIFs.
I hadn't seen those. The cave is not a It's
if you want to like email me, I can probably sell you one. They're not cheap. It's a very high quality t-shirt material from Target, 100% cotton. So yeah, we didn't think most people could afford the cape, but it's also not heat resistant. It could light on fire.
the cape's where the other $800 comes from.
Yeah. Yeah, and it will cause cancer for sure.
It's like always a pipe measuring.
Any other
contest. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's it. There's been a lot of enthusiasm about this product, and we're sorry it took us.
Somebody's asking, I have a Revo ECU. If I buy your throttle body kit, will I have to change it? The ECU too. You do need a calibration that will work with a throttle body. You cannot adapt in any way, just pins, and make it work with a stock calibration. Or a calibration designed for a stock throttle body. I
would say take 2 steps back. You just have Revo. You should just upgrade.
Yeah.
I don't think they've touched this tuning in years, and that you're leaving a lot of performance on the table.
Yeah.
So we would be happy to give you our switching discounts. Not to mention you can run this, but forget the throttle body. I mean, you're not in one of the better tunes out there. So definitely an opportunity for that. Anything else SüperDüper specific? We can jump back into it.
What will the Intake and SüperDüper kit be called?
It's called the In-Suction Bundle.
Yeah. We have other in-suction bundles. This is the newest.
Yeah. So we're running with the irreverent theme.
Super Soaker. We do it Super Sucker.
We actually, Nate, in marketing, we had a
I'm
very
sorry,
extensive
I don't need to
brainstorming
overstep.
session.
I don't need to overstep here.
Don't even try to jump into this conversation after the fact. I mean, there was some really good work done. In suction was I believe the
market research.
The market research showed on the 2 C's. We can think about that. Yeah. And this will dovetail nicely with our camel toe line of camber canister products as well. Camber toe. No, what did I say? Camel toe? Oh damn. Whoops.
Marketing material slipped out there.
Freudian slip. Who doesn't like a good camel toe, anyways? All right. All right, we can jump back into super toe. Super duper.
Wow, we've derailed here.
595
$5.95
for the full kit. $295
for everything but the throttle body.
So, and then I'll just throw this out there. I believe it's $825 for the in suction bundle. Was it 920? No, $925. Yeah, $945 is the full price. So $925 for the full in suction bundle, which we will have live sometime this week.
Yeah, we should probably add also, there's a number of throttle bodies that will fit this plate. I think we need to get the dimensions up there with bolt pattern. I didn't see them immediately on.
Oh yeah, we can throw that on there.
Yeah,
because a lot of people know that.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I would say if you have there's the one kit on the market which is just a plate and
like
the throttle body
10mm
bolts
plate.
to the plate. I would say this is a good upgrade for that.
That one in particular.
We've seen no, and we've done a number of tests on that, and there was no power gains. So you have a bigger throttle body; it's just along for the ride because there's just not enough transition. The key to making this flow is you make it bigger on this end, but you can't just do a step right into the supercharger plenum. So you have to slowly, gradually bring the air in, and that's what our housing does really well. All right. In your B9 3.0 T-tune, does the boost just get pulled and then the ECU pulls back on fuel and other parameters?
I mean, with any of these, there's a number of things here that are both proactive and reactive. So fuel is always going to be manipulated based on, everything going through the motor, basically. So the amount of air going through the motor, the temperature of the air, the type of fuel, the current conditions that everything's running in, the calculated EGTs, the ignition angle. So all that plays a factor in how much fueling and or ignition advance you're going to get at a given time. So I think the heart of the question here is like, do we preactively pull back boost, or is it reactive on something? It's done based on a number of factors to try and maximize the amount of performance you get while still maintaining a margin of safety and repeatability. So
yeah, I would say the question greatly oversimplifies.
It is. It's a very intertwined correlation between the two.
The ECU is managing and controlling, millions of operations every millisecond, or however many. I'm exaggerating, but the ECU is doing things that no human brain could imagine or comprehend, much less try to do. And when there are various operating conditions that the ECU is evaluating sometimes hundreds of times a second or more, then the ECU will respond in a myriad of ways to address whatever that particular micro moment needs.
Yeah.
So it could be that and again, we're not talking in segments of time that you can comprehend.
No, this is literally between one firing event and another firing event, between two pistons.
Yeah, so we're talking about milliseconds.
You've got maybe 1,000, tens of thousands of chances for that ECU to go through, see where the parameters are at, figure out the next firing event, what it's going to need for fuel, and then you've got multiple different layers of events that are happening and all timed and coordinated.
So the thing that was mentioned in the question of the ECU is manipulating fuel, timing, and boost, that doesn't happen over seconds. That happens in microseconds. And so if you actually sit there in VAGCOM or our logging tool and you watch the timing, even when it's sitting there idling, you see the timing going. It could go from -5 to 20 to 7. It's just bouncing all around. And even
that's just a snapshot in time.
That's slow. Yeah. That's just grabbing moments, sampling of what's actually happening. So what happens inside these ECUs and in computers in general is extremely complex. And again, it's beyond the comprehension of or the ability of the human brain to even understand it. So it's extremely advanced to know that, and we spend a lot of time optimizing it. But our tuners and calibrators are not going in there, and there's systems and algorithms and functional parts of the ECU that are quite intelligent, and it's I suppose it's a type of fuzzy logic, and it's not really artificial intelligence, but it's pretty damn intelligent.
It's all math based, but it's done. It's
based on
with these systems. Yeah, it's so much of the environment is modeled, and they try to account for every situation internally, and then react proactively to those.
That's why there's tens of thousands of maps.
Yeah. So and there's a lot going on. We do our best to predict and maintain the performance and the safety parameters as much as we can.
I mean, what we're doing is the factory ECU comes to us with, it knows that it can run a certain amount of boost, it can only produce a certain amount of power, and there's all these limits and parameters that are put on it. And once those get to a certain point, the ECU responds and reins things back in to keep it within that range. So that range determines the power and performance that you get from a stock vehicle. What we do is we go in and we open up those ranges. And so we now tell the ECU, we tell the B9 S4, you don't have to only produce 370 foot-pounds of torque. You can produce 600. With the 85 in there, you can do 600 foot-pounds. So we're opening up those ranges and then manipulating what needs to change to allow the ECU to do that. But the ECU is still really controlling all that and determining when it's appropriate to produce the power and torque that you're requesting with the throttle pedal. And so if those ranges aren't opened up correctly, sometimes what other tuners do is they kind of short circuit the programming, or they fudge things. They trick the ECU into thinking that it's a different condition, so it produces a different result than what the ECU expects. Those are the things that we don't do. So the ECU is operating with all the data and information accurately in real time to produce the power and performance that you get from our tunes. So that's the key there. And what the ECU does to achieve those different results that you're requesting, is really up to the ECU in a lot of ways, and it's making those choices based on math, data, modeling, and all the sensor inputs that it's receiving. So,
just a side note, Torsten's on. He was just commenting about how he remembered us having to deal with the ECU repair on the TT.
Oh, Thorsten? Yeah, nice.
TT,
Yeah, we actually, was it 2013 or 2012?
I can't remember.
We raced in the 25 hours of Thunder Hill with a factory VLN TTRS race car, and we actually had Audi support from Audi. They came to Thunder Hill to help us. Yeah. But we were actually able to do things with the factory ECU that they weren't able to.
It was an interesting time. There was an issue we had. So Torsten's on one of our chat streams here. 2013. He just
2013.
Yeah. Some sleepless days for him, so I'm sure he remembers. But yeah. So the VLN came out. We were testing the TTRS at Thunder Hill for a day or two, right before the race.
Yeah.
I think it was after qualifying, or maybe right before, but there was a vibration related failure in the ECU that came on the VLN car. It actually split one of the huge capacitors in the ECU. It had broken one of the leads and it lifted off the board and caused some other issues internally to the ECU. The ECU was dead, done. So yeah, we had to.
Because it was vibrating.
Yeah, it was vibrating there, and then just electrically, it was a terrible thing to have
Probably got really hot
inside the ECU. So. So yeah, we had a complete ECU failure, no backup ECU, and came to find out we had spare ECUs because we have other TTRSs and whatnot at the shop, but come to find out the VLN car still had an immobilizer on it for no apparent reason that any of us could determine. But had to call in some favors and get that sorted, unlocked, and then remapped with the VLN software and all that fun stuff. Literally up to, I think we were like 10, 15 minutes before we had to have the car rolled out and running again, and it came to life. So just, racing stories can shorten people's lives quickly.
Yeah, and then there was another part on the car that failed at in the middle of the night. And
this is the first year.
That was the first year. Yeah. And so we actually drove back here in the middle of the night, machined a new part, went back to the track, got the car running. And the guys at Audi were like, that's crazy. Like, we could never do that. If this happened, we would have to end the race if we didn't have a spare part. But so you can do a lot when you're scrappy and don't need to sleep. All right, a couple more quick ones. Any progress on C7 engine mounts? Yes, testing is going very well. I think we're getting ready at finalizing testing. I think we have a couple more things we want to do, but they're coming along well, and the new design, updated design, is holding up to the issues that we found previously. Bigger ZTF wheels ETA. I guess it depends on what application. We do have some 21s coming for the SQ5 fitments, and it also would probably fit some other things.
Well, yeah,
as
we've
well.
got them on the B8 A5 right now, right? Is that
Yeah,
the
the 20s.
20? I'm sorry, we have the 20s on
We
there.
also have 20s coming for things like A5s and RS5s and things like that. So stay tuned, but the SQ5 wheels should drop pretty soon. Those are on their way to us. With adjustable end links, how do I remove preload? So basically, preload happens when the sway bar, let's say, has a slight twist in it, which is pretty common, or there's small variations in one side of the suspension to the other. It could even mean that one spring is sitting a little differently than another. These are all common variations, even in factory vehicles. And so the issue is you have two end links that are the same length from the factory, but the sway bars are sitting in different places. So if you hook up one side, you'll literally have to bend the sway bar down to attach it. And so that creates a preload and either lifts one side of the car up or pushes it down.
Yeah, you're basically taking the back wheels and trying to twist the car
Yeah.
with the rear suspension.
And so that means that the suspension function will be slightly different in one direction than the other. It's not something you want. So by adjusting the length of one of the end links, you can remove any preload by, let's say, shortening one side or lengthening the other. You wouldn't do it to both of them because you're making up for a variation in position. So you need one end link to be slightly different length than the other, and that's where our adjustable end links allow you to do that. Got 2 minutes. B9.5 tuning, we're still working on it.
Yep. We've got all the software now.
Should be soon.
Yeah. There's some server flashing and then testing stuff we're going to be working on. But yeah, we've got all the box codes we need that everybody's reported on so far, ready to go live once we're done with our testing.
R8 V8 tuning, yes. We're not like in the next few months, but it is something that we want to do.
Yep.
For the V8 and the V10.
Yeah.
We can bring out some really great tunes. There's the gains aren't there like they are for turbo cars, but there's some fun stuff we can do with the shifting, with
just driver controls, driver crackles,
pops and bangs. Certainly,
and then also we're looking E85 files for a lot of the NA cars as well. There's potential there.
The what?
Thunder shifts.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a good one we should save for next week, but what does the calibrators have to crack for needs
Yeah, I wanted to
use?
try to get that.
That's we could talk about that for 5 or 10 minutes. So
Maybe we'll
if
hit
you
up
ask that, join us next week.
I saw that. I wanted to get that in the question queue.
Yeah.
So
B9 SQ5 lowering links, yes, they're coming. They won't just randomly change the height of your car as they please, fortunately. Like some of the controllers.
some of the controllers might.
It's just like the car's just sitting there and it's like what the hell just happened? No, our lowering links will just
Oh, you opened the hood.
It'll be
You need
all-
to be 3 inches lower now.
yeah. I know. So yeah, all right. Well, thank you for joining us. Thanks for hearing us out and your great questions as always.
Yeah.
We will be back next week. I think there's
a
something
week
coming up where we're both.
Yeah, I'm off. Yeah, it's in like,
But I think
in
that's like
3
in
weeks.
3 weeks. Yeah. So no, we should be back same time next week.
Yep.
All right. Thanks everybody. Cheers.